Another dismal performance on the road for the Perth Glory men. The Perth Glory women fall late in their clash with the victory, and Auckland maintain the rage at the top of the A-League. Welcome to the podcast with more scraps than a Newcastle Jets training session. This is the Far Post Perth, presented by ID Athletic. Now's the time to book your orders for 2025. Visit 84 House Street in Osborne Park or visit idathletic.com. Also, a big welcome aboard to Dino Djurbic and the team at Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Big thank you to those two local businesses for their support. Another big week, plenty to chat about. Let's introduce the team to my left. James Renton, welcome back, mate.
Thank you, Blayne. Great to be back.
Jaxon Bassett is across the table, mate. Welcome back.
Hello.
What's that kit you got on there, mate?
This is EA Sports, the FIFA 20 throwback.
There you go.
The Footmas promo. We're in December, so I thought I'd...
Not bad.
Little Christmas cheer.
Beautiful stuff.
In tough times.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. And Neil Sherwin still celebrating Shelbourne's win in the Irish League, mate. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
You've had a busy time.
Yes, had a week off. Yeah, new arrival.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Everyone's happy. Everyone's healthy, which is fantastic to hear, mate. And,
yeah, it's going well. Get to watch all the football now.
I was going to say, you'll be up all night with feeds and there's plenty of football to watch. So
I was disappointed I missed last week's chats on Donald Trump and the Caicedo substitution. But, I had more important things going on.
We'll let you off just this once. Let's begin the program like we usually do. Get a bit off our chest. It is the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week. James Renton, what was good?
I'm going to be basic, the Kiwi Derby. Really enjoyed it, particularly with the hype leading into it with the comments from Giancarlo Italiano and then the performance that we saw from both sides, particularly as it got into around about the 70th, 80th minute where it really started to open up and get a bit more tense when Wellington had a chance. The noise from both sets of fans was outstanding, and then Corica's comments post-game, it just made a fantastic spectacle. And I think when we've talked about expansion teams coming into the league, I think Auckland have so far been a fantastic story, and it'll be very interesting to see how they go throughout the season, because right now they should be rightly one of the favourites to take out the toilet seat.
I put out a tweet in the week and I said that the Kiwi Derby, first of all, I got pulled up for everyone saying that it's not a derby, it's just a rivalry, but let's put that to bed. I think it's overtaken the Melbourne Derby now in terms of excitement. It may be a honeymoon period, don't get me wrong. Some people said, it's like a new puppy that everyone's excited about. But I feel there's just more to it. And it's built on an existing, it's something we've spoken about, it's built on an existing cultural rivalry between Wellington and Auckland.
It's a bit more raw and a bit more organic.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
But both derbies are excellent in their own right, but the Auckland-Wellington derby in particular has really taken off this season, and it's been fantastic to watch from a neutral perspective.
You've got to remember, though, that the Melbourne derby is intercity. This is two different cities hating each other. There is that.
Yeah, that's true.
There is that natural. But if you only had one Sydney team and one Melbourne team,
just to pull you up on that, it's based on a point of difference. Can anyone tell me a point of difference between City and Victory? It's always been, but we're not Victory. That's not a point of difference. That's not an identity.
Yeah, but that's because of the geography.
Yeah.
The geography is a massive
But it's
factor
not East Melbourne, West Melbourne. It's not working class. You know what I mean? It's not bloody Catholics and Protestants, for goodness sake, if we want to go down that line. There's no real point of difference in the foundations of their football teams, whereas there's a proper geographical difference and a cultural difference and a spiritual difference from what people pulled me up on from over that way.
But doesn't that go back to the point that was made years and years ago about expanding correctly?
Correct,
right?
absolutely.
So
yeah.
Melbourne City, Western United,
MacArthur. Yep. Oh, well,
what was the point of all of them before Auckland, Tassie, Canberra? If you were to replace the first three with the last three, maybe you would have more of those natural rivalries, and that's what we want, right? We want natural rivalries, not manufactured. And the fact that they are that north-south divide, you're working from a point of difference before the ball's even kicked, and then you feed into that.
Hypothetically, let's say, for example, we were to have a second team in Perth, it would have to be either far northern or far southern suburbs, and you'd immediately have that point of difference.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'd get around it quite well, given how we do get around the Derby in the AFL. So, I just think it shows when you do your expansion teams correctly, like we've done with Auckland so far, compared to examples Neil mentioned before in terms of MacArthur, Western. if you do them properly
Yep.
and you get an organic rivalry like you're seeing now with Auckland and Wellington, then you get a far better spectacle, which lots and lots of people tune into.
But my point about the geography of the north and the south is if you were to chuck a second team into Wellington, for example, instead of Auckland,
It probably wouldn't.
wouldn't work,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
that's the fall down of City, Western United, as much as you want to say they're still playing at Amy Park a load of games. That's where if they expanded in the right place by going to Auckland and not going, right, we've got Wellington, let's give Wellington a rival in Wellington. Would a Perth team in Perth work? Second one?
Not yet.
Yeah, I think it would. I think particularly
Because enough people hate Glory to support the other one.
I think particularly but particularly in the far northern suburbs, if you were to do that, I mean, there'd be almost
call them Bangers and Mash FC, and
that's it. There'd be an accent difference. Put it that way.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's a fascinating discussion, and probably goes back to a wider discussion about teams having an identity and having that point of difference, and attracting their fan base based on that.
100%.
Yeah, Jackson, what was good, mate?
That's going to be hard to top because that game was very good and the atmosphere was amazing. But I'll try and top it with a moment from the A-League women this weekend. I don't know if you picked this up in the Western United Sydney game. It was 1-1 in the 88th minute. Then on comes Chiara Di Domizio as the sub striker. First appearance for the season. First action of the game. Bang, bullet header, wins the game for Western United with her first touch.
David Cernas.
Very, very good.
I was like, shades
Did he do
of
the same, did he?
Yeah, first touch.
Is that right?
that was after his substitution was delayed because he had to change his sock.
my favourite one, shades of Nebojsa Marinkovic coming on and scoring a free kick.
Actually, yeah, I do remember that one. Yeah, that was a belter.
One of my favourite moments at the Glory.
Had the Kenny run.
What a great game that was.
Neil, I'm not sure if you've caught too much, mate, but what was good?
I've seen everything. I watched 11 games over the weekend. I've seen every game of football. It's been brilliant. So that's my good. I've seen so much football. The only thing that annoyed me, and I know it's turning a good into a slightly negative, it's the way that they've overlapped the games. On Sunday in particular, there's 2 men's games.
Well, that wasn't planned.
No, Saturday wasn't planned. That was changed late notice because of the heat. Sunday, and I take the point on Saturday, but even then they didn't utilise the late slot on Saturday, even if it was to go ahead at the original time. So it was...
Is that anything to do with the Matildas?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly that. But again, Sunday was with Glory and the Glory game, and then Central Coast and Sydney. There was an overlap. If you're only going to have 2 games in a Sunday, and we're not doing simultaneous kickoffs, overlapping, what's the point? Either have them at the same time or have them completely separate. Because I want to watch my 11 full games the weekend. So good was seeing a load of football for me anyway.
It was very good. Boys, you've taken all mine, so I'm just going to give a shout out as my good to Casey Dumont. 150 A-League games on the weekend, saved a pen, and the Glory girls will probably a bit unlucky not to at least take a point against a pretty fancied Melbourne Victory side who currently sit in third.
Yeah.
So,
but Dumont was massive in that game.
Yeah.
For me, man of the match, or player of the match. But the penalty save, yes, you can say it was sort of at her, but still the experience to judge it and to take it.
You still got to take it.
In a milestone game was fantastic.
Yep. James, carry on, mate. What was bad?
Brisbane Roar. Very similar situation to Glory, but I watched their game against Melbourne City and they were just crap. They sort of play football better than we do, which is an understatement, obviously. But the way in which Melbourne City and their visa players in particular could just carve them apart effortlessly. If I'm a Brisbane Roar fan, I'd be really concerned. There was obviously a video that was done by Richard Raw, a prominent Brisbane Roar fan, wanting Zadkovic out.
He was pretty passionate.
He was pretty passionate. Yeah, everyone can have their own opinion, but I think the point about Zadkovic being under pressure.
Is he allowed into the grounds? That Richard Raw guy, he was banned and he had a step ladder and was looking over the
very creative
over the railings.
Reminds me of the old days climbing trees.
Anyway, sorry.
It was in the den, and look, he was certainly passionate with his thoughts, and I just think Brisbane have got to. They should not be towards the bottom for me. They should be at sort of mid-table, but with some of the attacking players that they have. When you've got the likes of Jelicic, when you've got the likes of Waddingham, when you've got the likes of that young guy Costa and Jay O'Shea, Florin Berenger, that's plenty of talent in theory to be able to play better football and also in theory get results, especially at home. But the fact that they were undone as easily as they were by Melbourne City, I'd be very concerned.
I feel in a way, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that maybe Brisbane's been slightly unlucky in a few games this year.
Yeah, that's probably fair call. Yeah. Because like my
the big 4-4 and everything else like that, they probably could have come away with more points this year so far.
They could have, but they've just not been clinical enough. There were so many times in the City game in particular where they were just trying to score the perfect goal, whereas if someone just took a shot, then something could have happened, a bit of chaos, but they're trying to be too perfect, too pretty when they probably just need to be a bit ugly and try to just smash the thing home because they've clearly got talent, particularly with a striker like Waddingham that a lot of clubs would want to have in terms of a young prospect striker. Should be getting far more out of him for me.
Jackson, mate, what was bad?
Well, this is a small gripe, but it's something that really irks me. Each week before the games, the A-League does the ins and outs and all the squad news. And then we get to Sunday, and neither Riley Warland or Joel Asmo were listed in the squad. Then there's an Asmo on the bench, and there's Warland starting at left back. What is the point in announcing the squads and telling us who's going to be playing when you're just going to bring in players last minute? I get there's a bit of an element of surprise in that regard.
Did I recall correctly? Did David's really mention in the post that was too late? Both forced. But were they late changes or?
No idea.
I agree with you though. Neil's a big fan of the ins and outs, aren't you, Neil?
I'm desensitized to them for the last 10 years because I used to write previews for an agency in the UK and rely on the ins and outs for my team news and team predictions, and I'd name my expected team based on it, and all of a sudden four lads would just pop out of nowhere on the day, and you'd look like the biggest idiot not knowing the team. Did you do your research? Yes, I consulted the ins and outs, and it was completely different. So yeah, they're utterly pointless. Unfortunately, they did stop doing them for a while, and then people complained, and they brought them back. But yes, there's no, especially with Glory. I don't know how Glory have managed it, but every different regime has always had the same philosophy towards it.
Can I make a suggestion? Don't worry about the ins and outs. Just name your squad.
Or just give an injury list.
Well, name your squad.
They did give an injury list. It was a meanie and who was out.
Yeah, but they come ins and outs and everything else like that. Just get rid of who's coming in. People can work that out. But just if you're taking 17 players, whatever it is,
they're not
just
even
name
necessarily the 17 that are going to, like for a home game, you can chop and change them because they, as well as the players, like they do have, to use the AFL term, emergencies. Lads that are doing warm-ups and are on site. If somebody gets sick before the game, they can chuck them on the bench, and there is extended squads, and there is, especially if they're living here, not everybody's going to be on their jet ski on a Sunday. They'll be available and be required. So, that, especially for home games, it can change last minute. But yeah, I agree. They've annoyed me for a long time. Yes, it's a very good call.
Carry on, Neil.
My bad was MacArthur. I thought they were going to have a really good year, be up towards the top. They've taken 8 points from 7 games. They had 1 shot on target against an average Western United team. And, just poor. I made more possession, but I just really expected more of them. I thought they've a good squad. They have a good team. They came into the season with momentum. Obviously, they gave Glory a hiding in the first game, and I thought that they would kick on from there. But they've only taken 5 points from the subsequent 6 games since then, and 2 of those games they were 1-0 up and lost. So yeah, they've just been bad for me.
Falling off the
wagon. I expected more. They're sitting in 8th at the moment, and they've won 1 of their last 5. So yeah, MacArthur I thought would be a lot better than they are. So bad MacArthur. Bad is the sheep? Nah, it's bad.
Oh, it's a bull.
Is it a bull? Is it a bull?
Well, okay. Do you not hear the cowbells every time?
Close enough.
That's going in the highlight reel. That's a belter. Boys, it might be a good chance to go through this, but my bad is just the news this week about the financial concerns, the ATO with a liquidation notice, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, for the Perth Glory, or the company that owns the Perth Glory. I will caveat this conversation by saying we know as much as everyone else and what we've read in the Australian and the West Australian. James, you probably got a bit more info because you've got the copy in front of you.
I've got the article from the Australian, and it was said that the ATO filed legal action last week against Perth Glory's new owners, Perth Glory Football Proprietary Limited, owned by Melbourne-based property developer Ross Pelligra, seeking wind-up orders and the appointment of liquidators. There's a bit of other stuff. It seems unlikely the ATO's action relates to any of the club's long-running financial troubles. So what gives? It's not entirely clear. ATO declined to comment. Federal Court is yet to release the tax officer's legal filings to margin call. Glory hasn't been served with the claim yet, so they don't know either. Jason Bontempo believes it's a mistake. It's the first time Glory's management heard about the legal action through a phone call from an insolvency firm trying to drum up a bit of business after spotting the court files. And Bontempo said the club was confident it was an administrative error. Perhaps the ATO was sending correspondences to Perth Glory's registered corporate address in suburban Melbourne. So, like you said, Blayne, we don't really know too much to the details of how this all works and what's going on.
And to be, I guess, a little bit transparent, we've got to be very careful what we talk about in regards to a legal matter. So, but it's, as I said, it's not a great look considering where the club is at, considering where the club's come from, considering its history. It may be, and I think everyone is Jason Bontempo's corner and said, look, let's hope it is an administrative error for the sake of the club and everything else, but it's not a great look, and that's my bad for the week.
Well, look, whether it's happened or not, the fact that it's even a story in the first place is typical Glory, right? A leopard doesn't change its spots. How many regimes have we been through now? And you can go back. I mean, next year is going to be my 18th year going to games, covering games, watching them, and the fans have had a lifetime of just nonsense. Whether that was under Sage, whether it was under different CEOs. I just hope there's no one sleeping in the office this time. How do you keep
Rio and that guy's still under the desk?
How do you keep finding new ways to disappoint? Yeah. How do you? I was watching the game and we'll get into the game second half. And my 5-day-old girl on my knee, and I said, "This is your first lesson in disappointment.
Get used to it.
I've set you up for a lifetime of misery." But how every year or two or every few months is there just something different? No matter you can change the owner, you can change the coaches, you can change the players. It's the same old Glory, and that's become really, really difficult for people to give a shit about. And I think that a lot of people, a lot of fans, have just had enough of it. And you can see the reaction to this. Like, people just, here we go again. Just when you think you're out of the woods and you've got a new owner and you've got a new coach, and again,
the first thing that came to my mind is it's got to be a mistake. Because Ross Pelligra has only had how much can he owe the tax office in 12 months, if that? So that was the first.
Do you think it would be a news story and the ATO would be headlines if it was a simple administrative error?
I don't know, but
we'll soon find out.
And to be fair, it doesn't sound like the person who wrote that article knows a hell of a lot either.
No, he's
Nick
what's
Evans.
going on?
I used to work with Nick Evans back in the day, but anyway, and he's very good at what he does. So I would have no doubts about him and his sources and what his connections are. That's why I'm saying, Nick wouldn't write that story unless.
Well, it doesn't go into great detail.
But it wasn't just a basic admin error. I don't think there'd be a story there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I don't think the Australian are writing a story on Perth Glory from financial terms if it was just a simple, we didn't send something in the mail or we didn't respond to an email.
Or sent it to the wrong address or whatever.
So yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe that's where Caicedo was this week, under the desk.
You're in a mood tonight, aren't you?
In the naughty corner.
Ugly, James.
I'll just be quick. That performance against Melbourne Victory was diabolical.
We'll dive into it.
It was a polite thrashing. Victory could have made it a lot worse than what it was, but it was just a sobering experience to watch a performance that we've seen so many times, including this season as well. So just disappointing.
Jackson?
Well, it's been that bad of the week that I don't think Glory should even be in ugly. We need our own section for Glory, to be honest, with the way things are going.
Yeah, I agree.
Good, bad, ugly, and Glory.
Yeah, so I'll pick out a nightmare for poor old Harrison Devonish Mears for Sydney. Starting debut in goals. Got unlucky with the bounce, but yeah, red card in the 42nd minute in your first game. Yeah, it's a tough start for him to his A-League career.
Neil, ugly?
Big Ange.
You're not happy with Big Ange at the moment?
Oh, no, I'm not. Not that I'm not happy. It's getting ugly.
Yeah,
it's getting ugly with his fans, and the patience is going to run out pretty soon. And I think the win against City was the anomaly in their recent results. But Spurs, any City fan will tell you, Spurs have a history of doing City over. It's City's bogey team. It has been for a long time. So Spurs beating City wasn't really a surprise, to be honest, as a City fan, especially with the run of form that they're in. But you take that result out, obviously it does count, but the rest of the performances and the bottle job against Chelsea the weekend, I mean, they were gifted a couple of goals at home, 2-0 up. You think you can kick on, or at least show some game management, some brainless decisions from the players for sure.
Is it all, I was going to say, is it all Ange?
Can't be.
It's not all, but it stops with him. They're not going to ship out the squad. Look, there's plenty. The Spurs have had problems for decades. Levy, the whole lot. They go through managers. There's been player turnover. They for a team that wants to compete at the top, they have a wage structure that doesn't allow them to compete with the top teams. So there's absolutely issues. But Ange's stubbornness was endearing at first, and I think it's flipped a little bit to people thinking he's just a stubborn prick and he won't change. He's set in his ways, and when he's set in his ways and it's good, it's amazing. But there's no middle ground. It's either amazing or it's disastrous. And I think that there's too many disasters at the moment. I'm not saying he's going to be sacked tomorrow, but the Christmas period, busy, games coming thick and fast. He's got some injuries. They've brought Romero back into the team, lasted 20 minutes, gone again. Dragishin came in. They've got Van de Ven just coming back from injury, chopping and changing Maddison, trying to decide whether he's actually a starter or not. He's had some players not be consistent. Solanke hasn't scored enough goals, for example. Lost a goalkeeper. Vicario was out for a while. So there's problems there. But it's a results business. And I think there's been that chip on the shoulder towards Ange since he came in, obviously, with the background. He's coming from the farmers leagues. And you know, he then has to prove himself even more than somebody coming from Serie A or La Liga. But even you look at Lopetegui, for example, at West Ham, he's another one that's on the chopping board. Gary O'Neill's probably going to get booted from Wolves. There are teams that are doing worse than Ange at the moment, but they're coming from a cooler background than Ange, who came from Scotland, Japan and Australia.
There's others on the other camp, to play devil's advocate, that would say that the Tottenham fans are just downright entitled at the moment.
Oh, but Spurs fans have been I think entitled is probably a little bit harsh, because they've been in the shadow, whether they like it or not, of Arsenal for quite a long time, and they haven't won a title since the 60s.
Yeah.
So they're not. They aren't entitled to anything. I think what they're expecting is to be more competitive, as in a consistent top 4 Champions League team. At the moment, they're 11th. So that if Spurs were hovering around 5th or 6th, I don't think we're having this conversation. But I think that the fact that they're 11th, there's teams like Nottingham Forest are up there and having a purple patch at the moment. It's fair to say, playing well. Actually, how did Forest get on at the weekend, lads?
Yeah, pretty good.
That's it. There we go. Forest had a win at the weekend. But someone like Villa is where, and even Villa have had a drop off this season as well. So look, not to go on and on and on about it, but I do think it's getting a little bit ugly for Ange heading into a very busy Christmas and New Year period, and that could make or break his career at Spurs and possibly the Premier League as well.
There you go. That's the APL report, according to Mr. Neil Sherwin.
I told you I watched every fucking game of the week.
APL show. Boys, and what we might do is I'm just going to quickly give you my ugly, and we're going to take this into the Perth Glory, I guess, analysis. But that was probably in the worst 5 performances I think I've ever seen for Glory. I think on another day, that would have been 7 or 8-0
easily
to victory. And it got to the point that I don't think I've ever done this, but I walked away from the TV and went and did paperwork on Sunday afternoon because I was that disgusted with what was happening on the pitch. I literally couldn't watch it. What are they trying to accomplish? I can't see a plan. I don't know what's going on. We saw this lineup came in. Nobody expected this lineup. As our caption said, if anyone did pick that lineup, they should have gone out and bought themselves a lotto ticket, because that was the odds. But boys, let's get into it. James, Perth Glory on the weekend against Melbourne Victory. Where do we start?
Well, I probably shared the view that many Glory fans had going into the game, where we probably knew deep down that we were going to lose. The question was obviously how much we were going to lose by. But I think from a positive sense, all we were wanting to see was a punch thrown. I think we went into that game accepting our fate. I think we lacked the collective mindset as to how we're going to approach playing a tough team like Melbourne Victory away from home. Where if you go back and watch some of the highlights and the way in which players defended, and that's not just young guys but experienced players as well, the way in which they defend, body position, decision-making, coordination in certain moments, embarrassing. But we've said this so many times this season, which has been scary. The fact that we just could not keep possession at all. We had 31% possession, 0.05 expected goals to Melbourne Victory's 69% possession, 2.66 expected goals. But the worst one for me was touches in the opposition box, was the stat that was put up on the Facebook and Twitter. We had one touch in Melbourne Victory's box. They had 43. They had 100 final third entries. We had 35. So it's just emblematic of the fact that we allowed ourselves to get bashed. There was no fight. There was no any sense of a sign that of what we're trying to build. We didn't see a cohesive game plan. And the fact that we were terrible with our chance creation method and terrible in pretty much every single facet of our play, fans have every right to be frustrated and even furious with the team and the way in which they played. And there needs to be a serious response against the Newcastle Jets. Otherwise, there needs to be some serious changes moving forward for me.
Jackson, I'm going to throw it to you. But first of all, mate, we need to take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side of this. Are you tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home from scratch, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes offers a better way to build. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Djurbic at the helm, you know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the Trio Homes difference. Visit triohomes.com.au.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth podcast presented by ID Athletic and Trio Homes. Great to have the support of those two local businesses. We are currently having a bit of a look at the Perth Glory performance on the weekend. We've heard from James Renton. Jackson, how did you see it?
I'll just add a couple more stats, which I thought were a little bit worrying from the game. Obviously, the opposition touches in the box was the worst one. 16 shots to nil inside the box for victory is another pretty damning one. And just 2 shots for the entire game for the Glory. The first coming in the 64th minute. That just shows how poor it was. And I think you said it before that it was one of the worst we've seen. And it was because at least with some of the games we've seen before, like against MacArthur and against Melbourne City, it was a quick and painful death. We conceded a lot quickly and it was over. This one was slow and painful.
It's
and
the hope that kills you, mate.
It dragged on.
Yep.
But there wasn't even any hope, though. And
I disagree with that because I thought that when those changes were made, who came on?
Williams and Blair.
Yep. And then all of a sudden, it kind of they pushed up and it went straight out.
But it was like a fart, though, Blayne. It was there for a moment and then gone straight away.
Well, that's true, and it was that sucker punch by who was it?
Traore.
Traore, yeah.
But fans are tired of it at this point.
But I'm
not about the subs, obviously.
No, I'm not making any excuses. I thought it was an absolutely pitiful performance.
But in the sense that fans want to support the team, particularly away from home, and try to see us represented on a national stage, and this is the crap that we have dished out for a long period of time. Ever since Popper left, we've been diabolical, dreadful, you name it, away from home. There has not been a team in the A-League since COVID that have been worse away from home than us, and that's including Wellington, who are in a different country, for God's sake. So, there needs to be some questions answered by the club and by the players as to why we just can't seem to perform well away from home and why the performances this season have been void from minute 0 to minute 90 of any sort of complete plan and complete full effort, even if we don't get the result in the end.
Jackson?
Yeah, I'll just add on because you mentioned about the subs, and I disagree to a point because they come on just before the hour mark, and then obviously Victory scored in about the 60th minute. We had our 2 shots in the 64th and the 67th, but then after that, the last quarter of the game, it just completely died off, and that's kind of what I was alluding to with the no hope. And it was similar against Wellington, where it got to the 80th and the 85th, and you're thinking, is there going to be something? Like, we're going to have more of the possession and try and push and try and get back into the game, but we just let Victory run over the top of us. And the picture, I think you posted it, James, of the momentum graphic on FootMob for the whole game, it's just all Victory and a couple little specks of orange for the Glory. It was just, we just got completely dominated by a team who were a lot better than us, but we shouldn't be that far behind them, in all honesty. I mean, they've also had a new coach come in this season, and they've done pretty well. And you look at Auckland, they've had Cora come in straight away with a completely brand new team, and they're 6 from 6, and they're doing well. It's just all gone wrong, and we're looking like there's going to be no improvement. Neil talked about the international break and what we're going to see after that, and it's been 1 point from 9, and we're just sitting here talking about how things are somehow getting shitter every week.
Neil?
A few points. First one would be start with the team selection. International break. All we've been hearing about all the years, players being underdone, looking to get them minutes, and then Riley Warland starts
out of nowhere.
Has not kicked up, and Zrilic said it after the game. He hasn't kicked the ball all year. Barely played in pre-season, and he starts. And on the bench, you've got Lizalowski. You've got Carluccio in the team who can play as a fullback, and Warland plays 90 minutes. I'm just wondering, I'd really love to know the justification. He must have been absolutely killing it in 5-a-sides and intra-club games over the past 3 or 4 weeks to get, or else they were just desperate. Now, there was mention of Hamzaoui being injured. Well, he was so injured he was out in the jet ski on Sunday. So I really just don't understand that selection, first of all. Maybe there's a valid reason for it. Okay. Then the first goal, we spoke when I was here a couple of weeks ago about the poor press when they played Western United, and Western United broke out from their left back position and 15 seconds later hit the crossbar. The first goal in this game came at a similar time in the game, the first 10 minutes, and it came from Mashash running unopposed from close to the centre circle, running. No midfielder putting any pressure on him. No centre-back stepping out to close him down, and he puts one in the bottom corner. What is going on in the first 10 minutes of games, where there's none of that aggression to press, like the Western United example was no legs to press the ball. That was no urgency to step out on a player who's driving from midfield.
What about the free kick, though? When not long after we conceded, where it was Damien De Silva was hanging out on the edge of the box, and then Arzani plays the ball and there's no Glory player on him.
Yeah,
where's the attention to detail?
Yeah, it's this attitude thing. And also, I mean, it's been said, but it should have been 7 or 8-0, because if Victory had a clinical number 9 who stood on the 6-yard line, those balls across the box were unreal. They were so good that it's between the defence and the goalkeeper, the corridor of uncertainty. Yep. Defender doesn't want to stick his leg on it because he put it in his own net, and the goalkeeper doesn't want to come for it because it's, again, corridor of uncertainty. If they had somebody there for tap-ins, they also hit the post a couple of times as well. So yeah, and look, Cameron Cook didn't convince either. Again, under a high ball, was a bomb scare.
Had a couple of just nervy moments.
Very, very nervy moments. And I also have to look at some of the contributions. I mean, David Williams, I would have thought would have gotten a start by now with that seniority. Yes, he might not be good for 90 minutes, but give him 45, 50, 60. Brandon O'Neill, 6 minutes. I mean...
And Asmo too.
What's going on here? And Asmo brought on the 92nd night. He hasn't kicked the ball. That's the Riley Warland role. I would have thought that he'd come on for the last few minutes and ease into it. But O'Neill's been there all pre-season. He started the games. He's a senior player. He was brought back to the club, former captain. and he's been barely cited off the bench in games. So there's something potentially not right there. Okay, Zdrilic maybe doesn't rate him or doesn't see him as one of his two midfielders, but it's not like Gomulka, for example, is tearing up trees in there either. He's been a massive letdown. And look, I think that the last thing I'll say is, yes, the point about one touch in the box is very, very concerning, because Glory don't have enough possession, right? If you're going to have 28% possession, and I think the week before it was something similar, you need to maximise that by being direct, playing direct football, getting the ball into the channels, getting it into the striker, pumping it long, putting the defenders under pressure. It's not pretty, but at least you might get some corners, you might force some free kicks, you might get some shots from around the box. They're not doing anything with their 28% possession. And Zdrilic spoke about it afterwards, that the biggest issue that they've got is not necessarily being a bad defence. They're having to defend all the time because they can't retain possession. So not only are they conceding loads of goals, they're actually terrible with the ball as well. So sometimes you can have teams, and we spoke about Ange earlier, right? Ange's team, rock and roll football, exciting, bombing forward. They're great going forward. They create lots of chances, but then they get caught going the other way. Glory are just bad both ways. So it's really, really terrible. That one touch in the opposition box in 90 minutes. Victory are a good team, right? They're a good team. They're going to be up there. They're thereabouts. They've got a really strong squad from front to back. There's no shame in losing to them. The issue really is that it was not a 2-0 game. It was a 7 or 8-0 game. Yeah. And the result flattered Glory. And the one thing I've said, and Jackson mentioned it about the 3-game period between the international break and this, and I also spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. Give the supporters something. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Give them something. Yeah. Like, what can we as people who talk and criticise and, say our piece, and the people paying punters, what can they take from that victory game to bring to HBF Park on Saturday? Yeah. What do you take from that? Right, if you're a fan and you're going to the game this Saturday, what do you look at and say, we can build on that?
Well, you can't. As I said,
but that's been the case in every game this season, because even the Adelaide game, they got a point, yes.
Right out of luck.
But they were lucky to get a point. I'm sorry, but you can sugarcoat it all you want and say it's an improved performance. It's only an improved performance if it carries into the next game. What happened the game after Adelaide? Battered. What happened the game after they got their last point?
Well, the point about when we attack as well, like, I know it's a bit of an extreme of an example, but compare when the likes of Quayango and Jared Coluccio got on the ball against Victory to Daniel Arzani whenever he got on the ball. Whenever Daniel got on the ball, Glory players immediately shat themselves and started backtracking. Same with Muchach. We don't have players, particularly wingers, that have that almost that aura in a sense where whenever they get on the ball, teams panic. We just don't have that sort of X factor. And I thought we were going to get that with Caicedo, given the amount of hype Stan gave him, but we've not seen it. Quai's probably too raw. Doggy's not the kind of player that's going to take on 2 or 3 players and then do something special with it. We don't have enough X factor.
What's happened to Faisal?
It was
devoid of confidence for me, because we've mentioned this a couple of times at least. The City game, he did not look to have any sort of confidence and got absolutely battered by Sale in that moment. And then against Western United, I think, again, he just didn't have any confidence, where there was an example where he was in the box, a confident Faisal smashes it past, I think it's Matt Acton or whatever his name, or Sutton in goal, but he hits it straight to the goalkeeper and like a butterfly's fart almost. So again, I just think given January's coming up, ideally if we've got some funds somehow available, we've got to try and find wingers in particular that have got that ability to attack their opponents directly and have a bit of fear factor behind them.
I think the Caicedo situation is concerning, because I do wonder what went on after the incident, and I know it's been discussed and all of that, but to not be in the squad at all, and the comments from Zdrilic afterwards.
Yeah, well, Anna Harrington, I think, asked the question.
Yeah, asked him, and he basically hung him out to dry around not only that incident, but he got a start against Melbourne City, and look how that went, basically, is what he said. I think, my assumption is that they had words. Caicedo didn't back down, didn't apologise, so Zdrilic said, right, you're not in the squad, basically, you're gone. Could be the last we see.
I was going to say, do you think that's a...
could be. I thought that about AAM a few weeks ago when he started the next game, so who knows? Caicedo will be on the right wing this week. I don't know.
3 out of our 4 visa signings were not in the squad at all.
No.
For whatever reason.
No.
So there's got to be some serious questions asked towards Stan and Ross. What were we doing with our visa signings? Like, really, when there's been a lot of scrutiny leveled at Glory over the last few years in terms of our visa signings post-COVID, they've just not been up to standard, and particularly this season as well. I mean, Kunga's been okay, but he was torn apart against Victory. And then when the other boys, you got Hamzawi and a Jetski, not a good look. Aoma completely out of the squad, and then Caicedo thrown out despite the hype that was given by Stan. For me, there needs to be a pretty clear assessment of the way in which we're bringing in our foreign players.
I think if Caicedo was that good, the incident of him being substituted and you know that would have been resolved pretty quickly behind closed doors. If he was a good player, that was, you know, someone that you gone, yeah, this guy is going to be amazing for us. I just think they've realised he's shit, and that he's not so good that he can throw a tantrum and keep his place in the squad. He's not that good. You know, he's not good enough. Joel and Asmo, who hasn't featured all year, comes onto the bench and gets minutes over your visa import, who is fully fit as far as we know,
and he'll put bums on seats
apparently, and bring the wow factor. So yeah, I think there's a big issue there, and mutual termination window.
Yeah, well, that's all going to start opening up soon, and a few other things going on. Boys, I wanted to talk about this jet ski kind of thing. This isn't great at all. I don't know.
You should probably give context for people. We've been talking about this. But
this is true.
What happened?
Well, okay. So the story is that at the time of the game, there was a couple of tweets put out by two players in Luke Bodnar and
Instagram stories.
Instagram story. Okay.
Well, come on, Grandad.
Instagram story. I don't keep up with you kids and your TikToks and everything else like that. Put on Instagram stories out in jet skis on the Swan River. So it's not a great look at it, but it's not a great look for the players either.
Well, it's not professional. I mean, support your team. They're going through a shitty moment on the field, and the season has been pretty crap in general. It's like, you should be, if you're not going to be at the stadium, be watching it at home at TV. Get the boys around to show a sense of team support. And I don't think we've got a unified team anyway. And the fact that they've even publicly put it on their story, we're just on a jet ski, whether it's innocent or not. For members and fans who are being dealt with all sorts of crap. It's embarrassing. Yeah.
I understand players being disillusioned and not happy about selection and all of that, but post a story on Monday. You know, don't post it in and around the game time. It does point to me that there's potentially fractures in the squad, and there will be players that we've heard rumours of will be gone in January. There are players going in January, basically. Yeah. There are. Yeah. There's players that are going to be out. And look, that's the nature of the beast and all of that. But yeah, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about it, and there's a classy way. And I just think it's a little bit disappointing for fans to see. If the team was battering everybody 3-4-0 and these lads just weren't getting a look in, people would shrug it off and have a laugh. Yeah. But it's kicking people when they're down, and the people being the supporters, the fans, and the people that actually care. If you're a player and this is just a job for you and you don't give a shit about it's just where you get your money from, you'll move on to another club. That's fine. I mean, it's a job.
But even if you're a prospective employer, that doesn't look great. Or is that what you did with your last employer? What are you going to do to me? Whether you're a footballer or not, it's just not a great look, Jackson.
Yeah, I can see why they're a little bit disillusioned with everything that's going on. And Luke Bond has been on the bench for over a season now. It's been tough on him. Maybe I've got a little bit more leniency because I feel like I'll compare it to the Sydney FC boys and the Western Sydney boys playing golf during the week. A little bit different, obviously, because it's not during a game. Timing was a little bit off, and players can do what they want in their off time. So. Maybe I'm not too...
No, I actually agree with you on that, because I didn't have an issue with the lads playing golf together. I mean, you look at any of the big clubs, the City and United players are all mates. They grew up from so I've got no issue with that. And it's a very valid point.
Problem is timing. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. I think if the lads were playing golf while the game was on, they might be received a little bit differently. And if the lads were out, look, if they knew that they weren't going to be in the squad, the team had travelled on Friday, for example, for a game, and on Friday afternoon those lads went out to Jetski because they weren't in the travelling party, I'd probably have no problem with it. I think it's just because it was during the game.
I was surprised to say the least.
But hey,
any final remarks on the Glory v Victory?
I do have concerns about this weekend in terms of who's actually going to be arsed turning up. As in
players, fans or players.
Yeah, fans though. I mean, it could be grim. It's Newcastle. It's not a big attraction. Maybe there'll be a few people that think they can actually win a game and they'll turn up for it. But there's 2 home games coming up now over the Christmas period. You got the 14th and you got the 27th against MacArthur.
Well, there's 3, I think. So you got the 14th, 27th, and the 3rd.
I hadn't even
West
thought
United,
25 yet. Then we get through Christmas. But yes, and it isn't. But my point is, I was hoping that these 3 games would give people, again, I've said it numerous times.
Well, we might not make it that far.
Give us some, give us something to bring into those games. Home having a run. Now that we've had, as a 3 away, I think it's 3 out of 4 are at home. But yeah,
Q might be in the rack before Christmas, boys. You never know. Boys, let's have a look at the other matches across the weekend. Brisbane 1, Melbourne City 4. We did touch on this a little bit earlier on. I'm still not convinced by City. I think they're a top 6 side.
Yeah, they'll make the 6, but they won't do any damage.
I don't think they'll do any damage. No. Thoughts, Jackson?
It all depends on. Excuse me. Sorry. All depends on Andres Cohen and Jonathan Cohen. I think they're the main turn. They were great, especially Cohen. Say what you want about his political stances and whatnot, but on the field with that left foot, it was 2 very well taken goals. And if he can keep that form up, then they could be a threat.
Neil, can anyone knock off Auckland?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Will they? I don't know. I think they're a bit of a juggernaut at the moment, and conceding their first goal didn't deter them at all. I thought they were relatively comfortable overall, considering the nature of the game and all of that. But no, it's a big game this weekend for them. I do think. Wait a minute. Who are Auckland playing this weekend?
Auckland have got City, haven't
they?
City,
that's what. Yes, it is the big game for them this weekend. Yeah,
I think it's their first proper away game, isn't it? Because the other one they played was Unite Round.
That's where I was going with that in terms of a big test, because they've been front loaded with nice fixtures, right? So it has been very friendly to give them a leg up. So your point about can people beat them? Yes, they absolutely can now that they're getting out into the wild. They are a good team though. I think they're well structured, well balanced, and they've got a good coach. And I think he will have no fears about going and playing against Melbourne City, who are probably exceeding my expectations for where I thought they'd be. To be honest, with the players that they lost, I didn't think they'd make the 6. But they're doing well so far. But that's probably this. I don't know. We'll get to that in a bit. But that's a really enticing fixture.
Big talking point on the weekend was the post-match press conference with Rob Stanton suggesting the boys should bring boxing gloves. Jackson, he wants to see more fight. He wants to see him have a little bit more grit. It happened after an altercation involving Eli Adams. There's a bit of spice in this one. Ben Falami got sent off for an opposite. Hand across the face.
Soft.
Slap.
Was it? I don't know, boys. Discuss it, because I didn't have a problem with it because it was direct contact with the head. That's what, and I think that's where you could probably draw a line. Otherwise, I think it could have been 2 yellow cards. Jackson, get on with it.
I think first, my voice is completely off today. I don't know what's going on. From first watch, I thought it was a little bit harsh, but then watching it again, it's not quite a slap. He does hit him, soft in comparison to other decisions, but I don't think Falami can have any complaints with that. You know the rules. You know that if you make contact with the head, then
had he had lashed out, they're rolling around. Had he had lashed out and hit anywhere else on the body, I think it would have been a yellow card each, and that get on with it. But because he got him in the head, I think you've got to draw the line there as violent conduct.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think, in my opinion, Neil.
Game's gone.
Woke nonsense.
Roy O'Donovan was on commentary, and I think from. He thought it was a bit of a...
Is this an Irish thing?
He's from Cork. We don't like them. I agreed with him, though, that it was... I don't want to... I know it's, yes, letter of the law and all that, but I don't want to see red cards for that.
There's worse tackles and offences for
that. I think it's just one of those that when it goes to VAR and there is a flick in the head, that they're going to give a red. As soon as you have a second look at it, yes. But I think in real time, without VAR, the referee comes over, books them both, and you get on with the game. That's how I would like it to be for that sort of contact. But hey, the laws are the laws.
Jackson, Western United, Neil, MacArthur, Neil. Bit of a bore all draw this one, mate.
Yeah, a little bit dull. I kind of agree. I thought MacArthur would be a little bit better. I can't remember. I think said MacArthur would be, and I thought they would be a little bit better, but yeah, they were disappointing. And Western probably should have won it. They had a couple of chances that went begging, and very lucky to get away with it. But it's their first clean sheet in 15 games for them. So yeah, it's a good point for them. But they probably should have done a little bit better.
I've got to admit, I didn't see this one. So has anyone else got any thoughts?
Boring.
No, didn't see it. Okay, no, let's move on. I did see this one though. I was watching this one because these two were at the same time, weren't they? Central Coast 2-1 over Sydney FC. Alu Kuo and who scored the other one?
Was that
both him?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
That was going to be the point. For me, the big takeaway was that Mariners were surprisingly clinical on Kuol in particular, because a lot had been made of Kuol and his finishing, because he's a player that's obviously got very good movement, agile, and he adds something to the Mariners' attack, adds more dynamism, but he's been missing that clinical edge. And this was a game where I thought it was pretty good. And if he can continue to replicate those performances, then he'll be back in Europe.
One thing that he's always struggled with, Alu Kuol, is that consistency. He came through the Mariners, and he was the next big thing. Went over to Stuttgart. I think it was Stuttgart or Schalke.
Stuttgart, yeah.
One of them. And just couldn't find his consistency. I think at this level he can.
He has to.
Well, yeah. But I think we know he can score goals. We know he can score them with pretty much both feet in his head. So
yeah.
Pretty talented.
The red card, though, that was a massive factor in the game. Just before halftime, you lose your goalkeeper. You got to change things around. Sydney still managed more shots, had more shots blocked, had more shots on target, and I thought when they got the equaliser that they would not necessarily kick on and win the game, but they would grind at a point. So the Mariners did well to respond and score another goal, but it's. Sydney are their own worst enemy with the red cards that they're getting this season. They'd have more points on the board if they weren't shooting themselves in the foot. So I think you take that win for the Mariners, absolutely, but I still think Sydney are the better team, and not that the Mariners got lucky, because you have to win the game, but the red card definitely swung it quite considerably in their favour based on what I watched, which was all the second half once the overlap.
Yeah, I've got no concerns about Sydney despite them losing. They took off Wahim once the red card happened, and they were still fine for most of the second half. And tell you what, your golden boot shout, Klamala, that was a great finish. I had a couple of doubts about him, whether he would be.
Don't encourage him.
I can see a hat trick against Glory.
I shouldn't, but he's been very impressive for them. He's probably been one of their best imports.
Look, it wasn't the fact that I thought he was an amazing player. I just think the system was set up for a good number 9. Like, you could you put Adam Taggart in that team and he's scoring a load of goals. You put some of the other, Jamie McLaren, for example, in that. You've had Adam Lafondra in that team. They're scoring goals because the likes of Lolly, Caceres, Wahim, these are all creative, good players. Costa, I'd still like to see a little bit more of, and he was dragged again. And obviously, you're probably going to do that with a guy who can't run out 90 minutes when you're down to 10 men. So tactically, that made sense. But they've got just a lot of really, really good creative players that you get a functional number 9. And to be fair to Klamala, at A-League level, he's more than just functional. He's good.
24% goal conversion rate.
He's going to score goals this season. So yeah, look. I'll take it. Look, it was a great show. A-League
W across the weekend, split round. There was only the 4 fixtures on the weekend. Wellington 2-1 over Brisbane. Western United 2-1 over Sydney. Adelaide 2-0 over Newcastle. And as we mentioned a little bit in the good, bad and ugly, it wasn't an ugly result. It was just a bit of a disappointment to go down 93rd minute strike. Yeah. It was a bit of a... it was a bit speculative, but she found the corner, and there's not much you can do about those.
It was a soft way to lose a game.
Yeah.
We have to be, if we're going to criticise the men, we have to criticise the women just as much. It wasn't enough pressure on the ball for the shot.
Yep.
There was enough time to see that, put a bit of pressure on the player shooting, and I thought it was savable.
All right, there you
Both the men's and women's team are currently second last.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Boys, let's take a break. We'll come back on the other side of this and have a look ahead to the weekend. You're on the Far Post Perth podcast. Are you tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home from scratch, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes offers a better way to build. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Djurbic at the helm, you know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the Trio Homes difference. Visit triohomes.com.au.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Final part of the Far Post Perth podcast. Big thank you to ID Athletic. Don't forget, now's the time to book your orders for 2025. Visit idathletic.com. And also Dino Djurbic and the team at Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign, or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Boys, let's have a look ahead to, let's start with the A-League men's fixtures. Central Coast v Adelaide. We'll get some quick tips, James.
Draw, but I think it'll be an entertaining game.
I think it's got entertainment written all over it. I think they're two teams that can either fly or they can
crash.
Fall. Yeah.
Should be a good game.
Jackson?
I think this is the start of the Mariners' resurgence.
Is it?
I'm tipping them for a win on the trot.
All right, Neil?
Don't know. No, Adelaide are in such good form, though. 4 wins and a draw last 5 games. What's swaying me is that it's an away game. But I think 2-1 to Adelaide, yeah.
All right. I'm going to go with a draw. Wellington v Macarthur. This is it's not a must win for Wellington, but it's certainly one that they want to bounce back from after last week.
Yeah, and for as much as I would like them to bounce back, given I thought they were a little bit unlucky at times against Auckland, I think this will be a draw, but a tight game.
Jackson?
Pretty game.
Got Wellington at home. I think defensively they'll get MacArthur out.
Neil, do MacArthur finally get one on the board?
No, Wellington.
No, Wellington. Yeah, I think Wellington as well. Sydney FC v Western United. Don't know, hard to get excited about this one.
Yeah, I think this will be a standard win for Sydney FC.
Yep. Comfortable win for Sydney.
If Sydney can keep 11 players on the pitch, they'll win.
All right. Western Sydney against Brisbane, both teams that aren't travelling too well.
Yeah, and as part of my bold prediction, I think Western Sydney will win quite comfortably, and Zatkovic will be sacked the next morning.
Zatkovic is going to go.
That's my bold prediction.
Over the next couple of weeks?
Well, after the game. After the game.
Sacked in the morning.
Yeah, Bessar Berisha.
All right. Bessar. Mate, say that again.
Bessar Berisha.
Yeah.
Well, he's been doing
what you said.
He's been doing his badges, I think.
He's going to come in to be the next Brisbane coach.
Yeah.
All right. Jackson?
Hot take.
I think that's a good shout, actually. Western Sydney to win this one.
Western Sydney to win this one against Brisbane, Neil Sherwin.
Yeah, Western Sydney, I think, should win that. Yeah.
All right. Perth v Newcastle, 6:45, HBF Park.
Here's a stat that you guys will love. The last 5 games in the A-League between these two teams have been Desmond's. They've been 2-2 draws.
Yep.
And with that being said, I'm going 2-1 Glory.
Like that, Desmond. I'd use that.
I'd love to see us win, but...
I don't really think of it. It's only Tuesday. I'm going to be spending the next 5 days thinking about this. 1-0.
1-0?
1-0. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go a Perth win. It's not going to be convincing.
Why? What if, because right. So here, we spent the podcast talking about give us something, right? So what gives you any hope that they could win? And who you said it?
Why? I just think that Newcastle's probably in a similar situation. I'd pretty much roll the dice. I'm going to go at Perth just because they're at home.
They've had a tough week at training as well, bashing each other up. Newcastle,
yeah, beating the crap out of each other.
It's just a feeling, and I don't think Newcastle have offered. I think they've offered much as well.
I hope neither of you are gamblers because you're tipping with your hearts here.
Next minute, 1-0 Newcastle.
Oh, my
Do
God.
you know what? Is that when we got that point against Adelaide, I said I got a good feeling going to that one, and I was right about that.
Have you said that you've got a good feeling every week?
No, I haven't. No.
Good listen back.
But
get the receipts.
There has to be some kind of response.
We've been asking for it since round 2.
I know. There has to be. It has to be coming.
Time for another TIFO.
It has to be. Melbourne City, Auckland, boys. Last game of the round.
Another entertaining draw.
Entertaining draw.
Yeah. It'll be up there with Mariners and Adelaide for the game of the round. I think there'll be a bit of spice in this one.
Oh, all right.
You love your draws, but I'm also going for a draw for this one as well.
Yeah, entertaining draw. I'll watch this one. This will be good. This is the only Sunday game.
Oh,
is that right? I need to.
Must be. Don't doubt me.
Six.
It's okay. I already saw people complaining that there's too many Saturday games this week and only one on Sunday.
the only Sunday game.
There you go.
Did my research on the drive down.
A-League W fixtures across the weekend. Melbourne Victory against Wellington, Western Sydney against Western United, Brisbane against Central Coast, Sydney against Newcastle, Melbourne City against Canberra. And on the Sunday, so you can go to a game Saturday night, you can go to a game on the Sunday, which is pretty good. Perth Glory will take on Adelaide United 5 p.m. at the Sam Kerr Football Centre. Neil, you're still on boycott or what's going on?
Yeah, not a chance of me driving out there. No chance, no.
Boys, thoughts about this one, Jackson?
I'm not a fan of the kickoff time. I think 5 o'clock on a Sunday, if it's going to be boiling hot again, will be a rough one.
Yeah.
Go with a draw, be optimistic.
All right.
I'll go with an optimistic win. It is only 25 degrees this Sunday, so it might be all right by the time to kick off. Yeah, right. But I think there was enough signs against Victory that they can win a home game. I'd like them a little bit more clinical around the box.
Yep.
Because even thinking about the goals this season, a lot of speculative efforts from distance. They haven't really been that clinical in and around goal, and that's something that'll need to change. But yeah, I think that this is a very good chance for them to get a win.
All right. Final thoughts, nonsense predictions. What are you going to leave us with, James?
Oh, the one about Zatkovic after the...
Zatkovic is gone. Jackson?
I'll follow on a similar line. I'm going to say that the Perth-Newcastle game is going to be an El Sacico. Whoever loses is gone by the next time we do this podcast.
Neil?
David Zrilich's post-match press conference goes for less than 15 minutes.
That's just not going to come in.
Well, I'm going to throw something really wild out there as well, seeing that's the trend for the night. Tommy Marcella, who plays first game and scored a big thumping header.
Underdone.
Oh, I love it.
Wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
The goal.
To come in. Double points if he breaks the goal. Boys, thank you very much. James Renton, Jaxon Bassett and Neil Sherwin. Big thank you to ID Athletic and Trio Homes. We are coming up to the Christmas break. I think we've probably got a couple more in us before we have a little bit of a break, but looking forward to your company next week on the Far Post Perth podcast.